know, for the past 32 years, movie makers and movie stars from all over the world have been coming to this half-mile stretch of beach on the French Riviera every May, almost like an annual rite of spring. But sitting in the sun and lying on the sand has never been the main attraction, because this particular beach is the Mediterranean coastal playground called Cannes, home of the world's oldest and largest movie marketplace, the Cannes Film Festival. Describe what it is that goes on here.
Or the Cannes Film Festival?
Yes.
People come to sell their wares. It's a bazaar. It's a bazaar. It's not a festival. It's a bazaar.
But it's interesting, just from an actor's point of view, to come here. It's like, it's more Hollywood than Hollywood.
When you go around here in Cannes, you're convinced that filmmaking is an international language.
For the public, it is a festival celebrating films of various degrees of quality, and it has value for that. It's also a trade fair.
It's whatever you want to make it, really. You know, it's promotion.
You just jet over to Cannes, and you get in and have your dinner and get the hell out. You know, I mean, really.
You see all these billboards and the signs everywhere. They're looking for financing. Half the movies that are here will never ever be made.
Well, it's my first trip here, and it's very exciting. It's just wonderful to know that this many people care this much about movies. I mean, this kind of enthusiasm is, I don't even think it exists in Hollywood.
And now, the French Riviera goes Hollywood at the Cannes Film Festival with special guests Liza Minnelli, Peter Sellers, Kirk Douglas, Sally Field, Charlton Heston, George Hamilton, Marjo Gortner, Roy Scheider, Bob Fosse, Paul McCartney and Wings, Roger Daltrey and The Who, Dudley Moore and his piano, Pierre Barreau and his guitar, and the Street Boys from England. Now here's your host, David Sheehan.
That's the look of the French Riviera from a boat at sea in the Mediterranean Sea. You know, I've been covering this circus called the Cannes Film Festival for 5 years now, and I have to tell you that every year, just the idea of being able to come here to this part of the world and get paid for it always reminds me of how magical the words French Riviera and the south of France sounded to me the very first time I ever heard them. A few years ago, when I was about 17 years old and living in a place called Columbus, Ohio. I mean, the glamorous and truly exotic images that I could conjure just by hearing those words were really incredible. And I must say that this part of the world still lives up to all of those boyhood images. The funny thing is, most of the people who come to the Cannes Film Festival never get a chance to see what this part of the world is really like, because the Cannes Film Festival is definitely not what the south of France is really like by any means. Cannes may not be typical of the south of France, but it certainly is typical of the movie business, especially the fact that movies are a business and a great deal of selling is required before, during, and after any movie is being produced for the big screen. In fact, here at Cannes, you really do get a sense of just how universal the need for selling is to any movie project in the world, as filmmakers and film peddlers from every nation under the sun gather at what is essentially a kind of sales convention or bartering bazaar. I mean, promotional hype and publicity stunts are everywhere in every language. Cannes may be famous for its topless beaches, but the film festival is famous for its bottomless well of attention-getting techniques.
All right, let's see a lot of action. Smile, grin. Okay, all right, let's take the chair. Come on, for the king of burlesque. More enthusiasm.
I'm showing a picture here on May 20, and it's called right now, Four Custody Girls. The title will be changed probably to The Wildcats, because it's a much better title for it.
Well, we have optioned other books. We're going to do Killer, based on Joey the Hitman, about a mafia hit guy. And then we're going to do Maniac Part 2. And then Sleigh Ride, which is based on a father and son killing team in New Jersey. They're still in jail, as a matter of fact.
Well, everybody in Cannes may be selling something, but not everybody in Cannes is necessarily a salesman. There's also royalty and celebrity and a field day for the paparazzi as the famous and the not-so-famous converge on this small seaside resort, some with their names on T-shirts and some with their names in lights. Liza Minnelli's surprise visit will be remembered as a frustration to the press since Liza dodged cameramen at every turn and spent most of her time in hiding, moored a few miles away from the festival in the old yacht harbor in Antibes, where she partied far into the night in the boat salon, which turned out to be bigger than my living room at home, by the way. But Liza wasn't hiding her excitement about being in Cannes any more than I was.
No, but it's wonderful for you because I you know, I'm in this business, supposedly, you know, whatever this business is supposed to be.
Showbiz.
And I watch you. So for you to say that you're excited is very important because it's so glamorous. It's what people think that old Hollywood was before, you know, and all of these things going on and different movies showing every night. And it's very important. And it's very important to directors and producers, and I'm sure because I know you've talked to all of them. But it's interesting just from an actor's point of view to come here. It's like it's more Hollywood than Hollywood. You know, it's real swell.
Yeah, it is kind of like Beverly Hills, France. I think someone called the Cannes Film Festival Hollywood Boulevard on the French Riviera, or Beverly Hills, France, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I remember when my father was, you know, on the jury here, you know, and I was here when I was like 4 with my mama. And I remember the palm trees and walking along, and I remember a lot about this place.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The glamour and that mystique about being a movie star.
Yes.
Do you still have a sense of that at this point in your career?
Well, I don't know if I have a sense of it as related to me, but I have a sense of it as related to history, you know.
And those you love, huh?
Yeah, well, I just think that glamour is, you make glamour. You create it yourself.
And at the Cannes Film Festival, there are always plenty of people trying to create their own glamour themselves. In fact, to some, Cannes is as much a celebration of glamour as it is a circus of selling.
This little sidewalk cafe cocktail lounge called the Carlton Terrace is where more worldwide movie deals are made than in all the corporate offices and studio executive suites of Hollywood, New York, London, Rome, and Paris combined.
Because I sold Spain, I sold Greece, I sold Germany. Yeah.
Pretty good.
I've got a screening today at 3. All the buyers from all over coming.
Well, not really. I'm looking at the camera.
Sempre demande. ¿Dónde está dinero?
Let him sell me Montreal, and then you've got yourself.
Sold. Absolutely sold.
There are many selling centers in Cannes, actually, and some of them are slightly seafaring, since the really well-heeled producers prefer to sit on their fancy yachts anchored off the Carlton Pier and ferry potential buyers out for a quick sales pitch, while others do their pitching in stalls and stands lining every hallway in every hotel, where even the lobbies are plastered floor to ceiling with posters. some for big-budget movies about to be released, and some for more speculative projects that don't amount to much more than a poster at this point. And everywhere, the hustling is hurried, to say the least.
I can take this to a major studio.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yes, but I would like to, as Nicky says, we like to form our own company.
Do you know the answer the major studio might give you?
Yes, they want to own 90%, we want to own 10%.
All right.
I don't want to pick up the piano, they roll the rug. It's a partnership.
Well, look, I want to show you the kind of money they're spending. Let me see the print ad. Let me see the
Look at
ad.
this. Look at this.
8 pages. This is just the announcement. No, just the announcement. 8 pages. Have you ever seen an 8-page ad in this paper before? No. The whole time you're at the festival?
Now, if you don't like Laser Lady, I got Dupree and Me. It's a great story about an athlete who wants to be a rock star. A great music track. It's really a good one. And then there's Hee-Haw the movie, which is going this fall. And take your choice, but I like an order.
This is not a doggy in the window. I'm not sure what it is, but this too happens at Cannes. People come through revolving doors, and you never... In fact, here he is now. Oops! I don't want you to fall down those steps, kind sir. Would you come this way with me before, because I know you need a... yes, he's got the... This is... I see. That's very nice. I don't quite recognize you because of the face. What happened to the... Are you trying to hide?
No, David, I wouldn't try. Oh, this?
Yes.
No,
Your countenance.
I had I don't know, I've been getting this all over my body recently. There's a lot of hair.
Hair?
Yes, and
I see.
think it's probably just burgeoning virility, you know, that I just can't keep in any longer.
There's no virility quite like burgeoning virility, as a matter of fact.
Burgeoning virility is probably...
So that's what Bo Derek does, huh? Bo Derek does affect some people. That makes them burgeon.
Bo, I think, does bring out a lot of burgeoning in a lot of people. Yeah, she's a lovely girl. Lovely girl.
And that lovely girl does seem to haunt Dudley Moore wherever he goes, whether he's wearing a beard or not. At Cannes, Dudley was getting the usual "what's Bo Derek really like?" questions, when all he wanted to do was tell the world about his new movie called Holy Moses, which no one in Europe had ever heard of. So Dudley decided to rehearse his pitch with me, or try to.
It's about a man called Herschel. It's the lost book of the Old Testament.
The lost book?
Let's say a lost book of the Old Testament.
Have they ever found it?
The book of Herschel. No, they haven't.
Oh.
And I've never found it. And frankly, it's hurting.
Well, how did they do the adaptation if they never found this lost book of the Old Testament?
It's a fictitious idea, David.
You made it up?
Yes, it was made up, you see.
You people in Hollywood do that all the time.
Yes, it's, well, you know, glamour, lights, women.
I know, sometimes I'm sick of it, I don't know.
Food, Chateaubriand.
Yeah. Chateaubriand?
Pardon? Chateau over the carpet, 1962, is a delicious vintage.
I see.
Hello, sailor.
Holy Moses is a fiction then, it's not true, huh?
No, Holy Moses is basically about man who thinks he's been chosen to lead God's people out of Egypt.
Whose people?
God's people.
Oh,
God's chosen people. Now, you get an idea. And, of course, this leads to a variety of hilarious situations, which, of course, I am the God of Abraham. I am. I'd have to hear him a few more times before I got him down pat. Let my people go.
No, I'm a few bars. But no, that's my people. What people?
All the slaves you hold in bondage.
There are no slaves in bondage. They're gone.
Gone?
Bye-bye. Tiptoe.
But who?
Moses. The most beautiful sound I ever heard. Moses.
There must be some mistake. I was supposed to deliver them from bondage. It's your Old Testament comedy. There have been many of these.
Oh, your basic Old Testament
Cary Grant has done, 5 or 6 Old Testament comedies, and I'm just following in his footsteps, really. And, of course, we're doing a musical version of it. No, we're not. Holy Music. We're going to call it after that.
A musical version of the Old Testament?
Yes, why not? I mean, God, it's about time, isn't it? Sorry.
You got me there with that, yes, Old Testament comedy.
I'll get you everywhere if I have to jump, David.
I knew you would. Oh, well.
Yes, goodbye and good night, and God bless you.
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Well, have to fly.
Dudley's not the only one who gets slightly bonkers in Cannes. There's something about the atmosphere of the French Riviera and so many movie people away from home in one place at one time that does seem to bring out the offbeat in the best of folks. There are camera muggers and paper chewers, cigarette eaters, some very tall ladies who will do just about anything to stay above it all. There are cowboy actors willing to actually ride their horses and their old-time stagecoach down the middle of the main drag in the rain, and throngs of people who show up to watch publicity stunts on the Carlton Pier, where George Hamilton set a record recently when he drew the festival's largest crowd ever by dressing up in costume to promote his 2 Dracula comedies.
It's an era now where we should put show business back in the picture business. And I've been out doing that. I just went to Australia. I was there for almost a week, and we were the #1 box office picture in Australia. I think it's a combination of old-fashioned salesmanship, showmanship, and I think that's what people want to see. I got off a boat as Dracula. I didn't want to get in that makeup, but there's something about Hollywood that has never been forgotten, and I think they want to see it again.
Did you feel foolish at all, though, when you'd have to go through these publicity stunts? And
well, there's a certain boundary of taste, and I reserve that right. I say if it's too much or it's in bad taste, I won't do it.
It was more a matter of crowd control than taste when the pushing and shoving paparazzi tried to get closer to a guy near the pier who looked a little like Humphrey Bogart. And even though it turned out to be actor Robert Sacchi, who co-stars with Michelle Phillips in a picture called The Man with Bogart's Face, they kept on pushing anyway, while the piano player kept on playing anyway.
Keep these guys entertained.
Regarde le caméraman, il est à 10 cm.
Ah, le caméra. He plays very well, doesn't he?
The only time this kind of madness really cools down in Cannes is around the sunset hour, when people are getting ready for the evening's festivities, or during the intermittent spells of bad weather when the beaches are practically empty. Of course, the urge to get away from it all does overcome just about everybody at one time or another during the festival's hectic 2.5 weeks. It was during such a get-away-from-it-all drive past a 16th century castle that Hollywood restaurant impresario Patrick Turai got the idea of turning the old fortress into a banquet hall for movie moguls who are always looking for a new place to have a party at the film festival anyway. Michelle Phillips was looking for a quiet place herself, and she finally found it in one of the castle's art galleries. In another of the castle's galleries, Michelle found a sculpting studio and an inquiring reporter. We've hidden the Dom Perignon between, what would you call that? One man's pelican and another man's jaybird. But nonetheless, really though, I mean, the Cannes Film Festival, it seems to me, if I was an actress or an actor, which of course I'm not, it would be like putting myself on some kind of display, like a meat market or...
your analogies are all negative.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, this is not a meat market. This is the showplace of the acting and the film community.
Your analogies are all sarcastic.
I'm not sarcastic, but I mean, I don't like to be referred to as a piece of meat.
I didn't think you would. That's why I was wondering, do you have that sense when you're in a bazaar like this?
No, this is my business, this bazaar.
It's also Sally Field's business, and when she came to Cannes for her Norma Ray Best Actress Award with Beau Bridges by her side, Sally found ways of taking it all in stride. But were you hesitant about coming here and
Not at all.
subjecting yourself to whatever your
I don't feel like I'm subjecting myself. Everybody keeps saying, you're going to be in for it. Oh, boy, you're going to be sorry. And then you're here, and I don't think of it as a hype or you know, a joke or whatever. I made the mistake of saying I would walk out on the beach, and there's so many photographers around. Too many. Sorry about that. They just, once they see someone walking on the beach, they don't even know who they're photographing, and they come around from everywhere. They said, "Would you sit on the beach?" I said, "Sit on the beach? Okay, I'll sit on the beach." And then they said, "Would you pull your dress up a little higher?" I said, no, I'm just leaving here. That's the end of this photo session, folks.
Of course, there are many attitudes about the paparazzi in Cannes. Farrah Fawcett tends to just toss her hair when the phalanx of film festival photogs start clicking away. And our old friend Dudley Moore is such a soft touch for anything with a lens on it. He tends to turn on at the very sight of cameras and lights.
Hi, I'm Flora Robson, and my next film is The Snails, a terrifying tale of killer snails that eat tomatoes. Thank you. Goodbye.
But there's more to Moore than comic clowning, and when they asked him to sit down at the piano, Dudley did. Sit, and he played, just like Errol Garner. Well, Dudley's musical talent is something people have been trying to make him get serious about, but Dudley says he'd rather loaf in places like Cannes than really apply himself enough to make the album he's been asked to record.
I've been loafing, yes. I thought, well, music, go to hell. I'm going to have a damn good time. And I did. I did no music, and so nothing's coming out. I want you to all to go to your record shops and ask for Nothing. It's coming out on Nothing Records. Nothing but Dudley Moore. Don't make him laugh. Please don't make him laugh.
There are many different kinds of sales techniques used here at the Cannes Film Festival, and this particular device for a movie called American Gospel, created by young Marjo Gortner, has got to be one of the most unique. It's a kind of a Bible in which there is the script, or at least the storyline outline of the movie, connected to these aerials, which signifies something, I think. What is
we tend to reach out, you see, over here in Cannes, we want to reach out and find distributors and sell this thing, and so we put these antennas on so we get great reception.
Aha, high frequency.
Exactly. And the reception has been very good, because what's interesting is that I've been over here hyping a picture, but not really trying to sell it.
There is a significance, though, isn't there, in the antenna?
Yes, well, there's all these television preachers. You have, you know, in America now, we have a man that's very big named Ernest Angley.
Oh, yeah, Ernie.
Say yeah, yes, say yeah. He talks to the people like this. He says, brother, take whatever else you need. Sister, oh, I feel the feeling.
Feel the feeling,
Feel the
amen.
feeling. Television, so it's very big now. In fact, you have some of these guys are making $30 and $35 million a year.
Is that right?
Tax-free, too, in religion. And so this American Gospel is about religion in America. It's sort of like what Nashville was about country music. It's sort of a look at the slice of American religion. It's not a put-down, but it's just the story of religion in America.
But like in your original movie about religion, the movie called Marjo, as a matter of fact, there was certainly in that film the sense of it all being kind of a fraud or a sham. The people who needed this kind of fantasy were really being exploited.
But the people aren't really exploited. Even in my movie Marjo, I mean, they're exploited, but people who pay $12 to see the Rolling Stones and have to sit back in a back row, they're exploited in a way. I mean, you pay for entertainment. I mean, the people that religion entertains, the people that go and hear these television preachers every Sunday, their entertainment is religion. And there's nothing wrong with charging for that. And that's what I like to show, is that flip side, that if you like religion, you pay for it.
And they began to pray, and I see the Holy Ghost as cloven tongues of fire were upon them. Hallelujah. And oh my, the Holy Ghost finally found a permanent resting resting place. I want you to get out the largest bill that you have right now. If you believe, if you don't have that much faith, then you shouldn't come down anyhow.
When it comes to selling, Marjo is actually one of the most experienced sellers in Cannes. After selling revivalism for 20 years and then selling his movie about his life in revivalism, Marjo should have no trouble at all selling his new picture about religion on television.
Because what I did is I put this together and I went down to Mississippi. And I raised the money from private people rather than come over here. Do you know what the competition's like over here? How are you going to sell? Everyone's got a picture of something like this. So they've reacted very favorably when they say, well, what are you selling? Well, I'm not selling. I want to tell you about a picture. It's going to have a lot of gospel music. The picture's financed. It's going to be made. And I get a lot of attention that way from the people in territory so that when I come back next year, the picture will be done and they'll want to then come to me to see the picture without me having to do gimmicks and go to them.
So you're laying the groundwork for...
I'm laying the groundwork really for next year because my picture is financed. We're doing the movie. Whereas most of the people over here are not doing the movie. You see all these billboards and the signs everywhere. They're looking for financing. Half the movies that are here will never, ever be made unless they raise certain territories and certain finances. And that's why you see so many packages. They need an Oliver Reed. They need someone, names and that, to try and put a package together to sell. And then they go make the movie if they can raise the money.
One way movie makers use the Cannes Film Festival to help them raise money and generate publicity is by calling an old-fashioned press conference, where the movie people try to make quotable remarks, or producers like Dan Milnick of All That Jazz try to defend their pictures and their directors.
How do you account for what seems to be an extraordinary self-indulgence in staging a 20-minute dance paean to your own death?
The hostility of that question is so self-evident. Why suddenly an artist who makes films, if he makes films that draw in any way from his own life and experience, is considered self-indulgent by some individuals?
It is 20 minutes of dance dedicated to Joe Gideon's death. If I were to choreograph my own, I think it would be longer.
Excuse me, would the photographers now please sit down so we could get this press conference on?
Please, let's stop now. We have to get the press conference going. Would the photographers please sit down?
Will the photographers please withdraw from front row?
We have to start now. En Amérique, j'étais pas contre la puissance nucléaire en tant que telle, mais je trouvais qu'on allait trop vite, donc on a une autre alternative pour l'énergie.
Did I say all about
I think it's fun to come here when you don't have any picture at all. And then you really have much more flexible schedule.
As I said to Michael, Peter gave me a job. Michael hasn't given me a job yet.
So the script was written by my son Fraser, who is familiar to all of you as the baby who floated down the Nile in a basket as the baby Moses in the Ten Commandments.
I'm not afraid to lose. La raison principale, c'est que je n'ai pas peur de peur.
That means that's a lie.
Paul McCartney and his wife Linda staged their Cannes conference to sell her animated movie and his new record album. But all the press wanted to hear about was when are the Beatles going to reunite?
For the Beatles to reunite, the four of us would have to be very enthusiastic about it. And that isn't the case. But, you know, it's something I did, and I'm very happy about it, but I wouldn't want to do it again. I'd rather leave what we did as that and get on with something new. Well, I think I do that type of music, you know. On the new album, I think there are some things that are reminiscent, but we're not really here to sell it. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, I think we're not really here to sell it.
They were there to sell, though, like everyone else in Cannes. And McCartney was very quick to realize he had a captive audience that would surely love to see his homemade videotape production number, specifically designed to promote his new record album, which he introduced as one way records are sold in the States these days.
Well, these days when you make a film, when you make a record, you normally make a video with it. And I did an album called McCartney, and this is McCartney 2.
even though McCartney got a big kick out of the idea of dressing up in costume to play every part in the band in his little videotape show, he denies any movie acting ambitions because music is his life. Music is also a big part of life at the Cannes Film Festival, especially the ever-popular nighttime disco party action.
Of all the gin joints and all the towns in all the world, I wind up at a Cannes Film Festival. But it's not like the old days when I was here before. Well, I'd stay out of town a while, a little piece or so. Well, if a newspaper guy wanted to see me, he'd have to drive out and see me. I always stayed away from the parties. But things have kind of changed now.
Roger Daltrey and The Who came to Cannes because they had a couple of movies to sell. But they couldn't resist the opportunity to perform any more than the man who acted, sang, and wrote much of the music in A Man and a Woman, Pierre Barreau, could.
Ce n'est que de l'eau, camarade. Tribadda, payim badouida, tribadda, payim badouida, tribadda, payim. Lorsque l'orage vient, je boude. Et je n'empêche pas les gens qui sont bien d'être joyeux. Moi je l'aime et j'ai parcouru le monde en cherchant ses racines.
Pierre was in Cannes to sell his first directorial effort, a French film called Le Divorcement. But everywhere he went, there were requests for the samba. Another sound that's typical of Cannes at festival time is the endless array of street music.
Música, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, all the street music in Cannes isn't quite so awful. In fact, one group of street musicians, appropriately called the Street Boys, were actually offered 2 recording contracts and a movie deal while they played from beach to pier to sidewalk cafe. And now they're back in England becoming big hits, or so their press agent told me.
Wap, wap, ba-dee-da-da, wap, wap, oh. Everybody having fun. Looks like one more time I'll be the lonely one. Having that girl for a long, long time. Having that girl in years.
Cannes isn't all carnival craziness and musical fun and the hard sell, though. Every year there are awards, tributes, and testimonials galore. Princess Grace, who once was actress Grace Kelly, drove down the Grand Corniche from nearby Monaco to personally pay homage to Alfred Hitchcock, a director who helped her career by casting her opposite Cary Grant in North by Northwest. Grace was the guest of honor at the Hitchcock tribute, which was led by Charlton Heston.
The most important thing I can say about Alfred Hitchcock is that I never had the chance to work for him, which is my bad luck. But he unquestionably was one of the most influential filmmakers in the history of film.
He made the first British sound film, Blackmail, and after the 39 Steps, he followed the exodus of European filmmakers to Hollywood. All of you remember the films he made there over the next 40 years as well as I do. We're going to show you a selection from several of them this afternoon. From Rebecca to Family Plot, he dazzled audiences, critics, and his colleagues alike. All of these films pay him the most eloquent tribute any artist can ask for his work. They last. They still work. They speak for themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, Hitchcock lives.
I think one of the most valuable things any festival can do is mark the work of an artist. Alfred Hitchcock was an artist.
It's curious to me, why would you lend your name and your own credibility and stature to a tribute to Alfred Hitchcock, a man who devoted his entire career to violence, bloodshed, mutilation?
I don't think that's true. I think Alfred Hitchcock's genre was suspense, but throughout almost all of his career, the suspense was the point of the piece.
Late Peter Sellers usually avoided the Cannes Film Festival, but even Peter came to boost the film he considered to be his best, Jerzy Kosinski's Being There.
Various people, including the well-known Mr. Walter Mirisch, said to, I want to do this film. Jerzy, I think it's we need a hook to hang it on. Holy mackerel, I think it's really good. And, but Jerzy said, fucking cool, eh? So, we've made this film. I'm going to shut up very quickly now because speeches are boring. I just want to say this about this film. This Being There film, films like Being There happen only like once in 20 years. And I can assure you of one thing. This is one of the most unique films that have ever been made. And I mean ever been made in the history of filmmaking.
Hello, Ronald. How are you? Just fine. Good. I am fine, too. Good, good. Yes, good. We're fine. Yeah, fine. Mr. Gardner, my editors and I have been wondering if you would consider writing a book for us. Something about your political philosophy. What do you say? I can't write. Of course not. Who can nowadays? Look, we can give you a 6-figure advance. I'll provide you with the very best ghostwriter proofreaders. I can't read. Of course you can't. No one has the time. We glance at things, we watch television. I like to watch TV. Oh, sure you do. No one reads.
Sellers' sudden death was doubly surprising to those who saw him this year in Cannes, where he refused to seek sympathy about the heart disease he suffered from, always making jokes about whether or not he was in good health.
I don't think I was ever out of it. You know, if ever I get a cold, it's in heart attack, seizure, head fell off, you know, anything, knee gone, anything like that.
Presiding over the Cannes jury's choice of the festival's prize winners is a job Kirk Douglas accepted enthusiastically, despite the constant pressures for tips on possible winners. Douglas has done his own pressuring in Cannes, though, once especially on behalf of a movie he headlines in the starring role called The Final Countdown. a selling effort that Kirk was more than willing to put forth for a variety of reasons, including his belief that actors should do their part in selling a picture once it's made.
Well, to a certain extent, I've always thought that. What I mean is, even when I first came to Hollywood, I've always felt that an actor owed the studio or the producer, he owed him some effort. You know, how far depends. I mean, for example, if they asked me to be here, you know, in this kind of confusion for a week, I'd say no. If they say the price is too high, if they say, would I come down here for maybe a day and a half, yes. I want to stay here because, after all, the second, you know, I have a selfish interest. It's my son, Peter's first production. And since he's the first son that's given me a job, but you know what happened with Michael?
Michael wouldn't give you...
Listen, Michael, when I said, Michael, you know, Jack Nicholson won an Oscar in Cuckoo's Nest, you know, I did a play on Broadway. He said, Dad, really, you were too old for the part. Then I said, China Syndrome. I said, geez, they'd say that, you know, Jack Lemmon is going to at least get a nomination for his performance in China Syndrome. I said, what about me? He said, Dad, you're too young for the part. So suddenly I got a son that says I'm the right age to play the commander of an aircraft carrier. I got to be nice to him.
The reason that I'm back in Cannes this year is that I'm also find myself in a job that I have mixed feelings about, and that is the president of the jury, because it's strange for me to pass judgment on someone else's work. Frankly, I don't like it. I mean, because I'm accustomed to having someone say, well, Kirk, in that picture you were lousy, or you were not bad, or you were fair. And now I have the job of trying to pick a film that I think is good and deserving of a prize. I think it's very difficult.
This has actually been the first Cannes Film Festival in a long while where the films on display here at the Palais de Festival were as notable as the circus of selling going on all over town, with new pictures by great directors like Fellini and Kurosawa and Hal Ashby and Bob Fosse on screen. This has really been a film festival. And it was a special pleasure for me to see my favorite film of the year, All That Jazz, win this year's grand prize.
The Palme d'Or executive, Bob Fosse's All That Jazz.
Say the neon lights are right on Broadway. They say there's always magic in the air.
The magic of showbiz and the struggle and torment of the creative life is captured in All That Jazz with such a universal sense of truth. The international audience at Cannes cheered the film over and over again during its European premiere screening.
Nowhere.
To be on the wire is life. The rest is waiting.
That's very theatrical, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
Did you make it up?
I wish I had. You like it?
Well, it's all right.
It's showtime, folks.
Actor Roy Scheider was one of the many Americans who kept pointing out Bob Fosse's directorial genius to the press in Cannes, as well as defending Fosse against accusations that All That Jazz was too much a glorification of the director's own life and brushes with death.
Yes, it is overblown. It is theatrical.
It is entertaining, it is exciting, it is interesting, it is the grand finale of this man's life, and that's the way he wanted to do it.
The identification of Joe Gideon is certainly true, but I think any director identifies with all the characters in every theatrical venture he does, as an actor must. An actor, like Mr. Schuyler, must find much of that character in him before he can allow himself to play it and give himself over to it.
Lay back, Victoria. Lay back. Lay back.
Hold it. So all that jazz has made it to the French Riviera, and it really is surprising for me to learn that this is actually your first trip to the Cannes Film Festival. A man of your esteemed background in the world of cinema, with films like Cabaret, and Lenny was even a big contender in the festival one year. I would have thought that you might have been here before, but you haven't.
I wanted to come in '75 when Lenny was here. And as, I don't know if you remember, but Valerie Perrine won a prize that year. But that was the year I was sick and I was in the hospital. So I would get daily reports from here, but this is my first visit.
That's right. That was the year you were actually living the story that became the story for All That Jazz, right?
Well, part of it, anyway.
Yeah. As you sat there last night in the Palais du Festival and witnessed your film being witnessed by what really is an international audience of people from so many different countries, so many different languages, different sensibilities, and so on. There were scenes, for example, like the way he staged the, I forgot the name of the number, but the big number that had to do with the anonymity of sex and...
yes.
And you could feel this movement of so many bodies kind of toward the screen.
Sex seems to be an international language.
Absolutely. You had them completely there. Now, in that kind of thing, what do you hope that they got from that besides the kick and the fun of it?
Depending on their own sexuality.
Yeah.
I was some people, you know, liked the way it's staged and the beautiful movement of bodies, and I was hoping other people might be aroused by it.
Not only was the European audience aroused by the erotic elements of All That Jazz, they gave the film an unprecedented standing ovation at the end of the screening.
I don't think I've ever been around a response like that at the end of the film. It was, you know, it makes all this stuff that you go through in show business and trying so desperately to get something on and you believe in it. It makes it all worthwhile suddenly. In 2 minutes, it's suddenly, well, I'm glad I did it.
Despite the decidedly international flavor of the Cannes Film Festival, the entire spectacle is becoming more and more dominated by American movies. And that, I think, is just one more indication that film as an art form and as a business is defined by an American perspective the world over. And as the workmen begin to clean up the streets of Cannes at the festival's end, most of the billboards are for American movies, and most of the debris was left behind by American movie makers. Cannes will remain on the French Riviera, but the compelling force in world cinema will return to Hollywood.
David Sheehan will be here every month with some unique perspectives on Hollywood, the tinsel, the town, and its talent.